Still a lay psychotherapist?
No.
Okay,
no.
Should we press on to the next question?
Okay. No, I was back in the early, well, let's see, early 70s, very early 70s.
Yeah.
And I had dropped out of acting for a while, went to San Francisco, and worked with the Gestalt Institute of Multiple Psychotherapy, and found out that a lot of the ways that I did my acting was the same processes. They just had different titles for things. And so I started to do my training with them. I moved in, and we worked out a whole video program to do watch people and their behavior, and then show them the process that they use. And in fact, I'm doing a screenplay right now that involves a lot of that stuff that went on back in those days.
Going back in history as we are, you were sort of a bit of a lad when you were a real youngster, weren't you? The old street gangs, mob violence,
all that stuff. All that stuff. Actually, I promised Glennis I would never talk about that again, because we went on this whole tour and everybody was talking. We went even back to my old neighborhood. Went back to this house 34 years ago that I lived in, you know, where we used to run around the gang and have this fight on the corner.
I mean, it's real serious fights, wasn't it? Knives, clubs, the lot.
You know, with hands tearing out hair, street fighting, you know, that kind of stuff.
You've the scars to prove it, too, haven't you?
I got a few. You know, but that was part of growing up then. It was
pretty violent growing up. I mean, what do you think when you see about the riots in this country? I mean, do you see any sort of parallel to what you were involved in as a child, or is it a totally different thing?
Well, it's different. Then, you see, it was just simply, you had to fight just to go to school, to walk down one particular block, you know, to go through somebody else's neighborhood. See, there's difference when there's cause. You know, that's justifiable in some sense. I never justify violence in any sense, you know, unless you're defending, you know, home and family and those kind of things. But it's different than when you don't know what you're fighting about as a kid, just the survival thing. You see, it's different. Then, you know, when you get into believing something, that's something else entirely. You know, it's like I get very excited and angry when I see things like, you know, the terror situations. And I get mad because it's a manipulation of everybody that they use, especially the media. And I think if you cut off the whole thing so nobody could see any of it, and you make it a government issue then, and you handle it so that they don't, you know, use everybody else and the world to try and get their way, you know, maybe that would help stop it.
But is the violence in our society contributed to in any way by the violence, say, in a Michael Brandon television program? Or is that so false?
Well, there's always been that argument, you know, that it affects as a child, although I'm not out terrorizing anybody. I grew up watching really violent television shows because they were more violent when I was a kid than they are now. They've toned down the violence a great deal. You know, before you saw the hit, and you know, and it would blood splashing, all that kind of stuff.
Speaking of Dixon of Dock Green, I assure you.
You don't know what Dixon of Dock Green is, do you?
No. But somebody used that on me once before.
His popularity continues. You've now got to say hello to Jenny Hampton, who's a birthday on Friday. She's 14 and she lives in Forres in Scotland.
Happy birthday, Jenny.
Samantha Hilliard is in Argyll.
Who?
Samantha Hilliard in Argyll. Look, every call.
Hello,
There's a call here who says I talk too much. Do you think that, Nick?
I don't know, and I wish my mother would stop phoning in.
Find that very hard to believe. And, of course, the big story of the morning, somebody's complained that we made no mention of Swindon beating Sunderland in the Milk Cup match. I wonder who that could have been. We'll take a break. Join us soon.
From the Carteret Old People's Home, Bow Street, near Aberystwyth. So, Mary, have a lovely day. Very many happy returns. 101 today.
Fantastic.
Now, the love story, as you know, of John Lennon and Yoko Ono is being made into a film.
And Yoko Ono. And, of course, Molly will be here with us in after 9. Michael Brandon is in here. It must be interesting for an actor to play the part of somebody who has been very real in their own experience, like the person playing John Lennon. Have you ever done it?
Yeah. It's fascinating when you play somebody who, you know, who is a real person. I did a film called James Dean, and I didn't play Dean. I played Bill Bast, who was actually the writer and the producer of the show. He was James Dean's roommate in college, and he loved him. He was in love with him. And I played Bill, and there was one day when I came back from shooting, they had left the rushes, which is the day's shooting, in the theater for me to see because I was working late. Everybody had already seen them. And I went to the theater, and I sat down, I heard sobbing coming over from the dark corner. And Bill was sitting there, and he was crying. And there's been this scene, which was a really unbelievable scene between him and Jimmy. And he had just seen the film, that's why I wanted to see it. It was a crucial scene. And he was crying. And I said, "Billy, you all right?" And he looked at me and he said, "You were me."
scary, isn't it, though, to do, but to have that reaction?
Yeah. And also to, you know, to allow a person, you know, when I would get inside him to get his secrets, you know, and how he really felt, and to reveal things that he couldn't reveal at the time, you know, but to find out that truth.
We'll come and talk some more in a moment after break. Thanks, Mike. Anybody particular you have in mind you'd like to give a message to now?
That's a hot one, isn't it? Yeah, get the coffee on, I'm coming home.
How is Glynis?
Now, how do you know that that's who I was talking
I
about?
didn't say I knew who you were talking about.
Glynis, if you've been watching, it's very decent of you to let him out for so long, particularly this hour in the morning.
You believe this?
Thank you very much. And the best of success to Makepeace and Dempsey and Thackeray and all of those people. It's a super show. Right. And we love it. It's time to go to Wincy.